Hi everyone, good afternoon. I'm Ankita from NASSCOM. To continue the momentum that was built during our last RPA session, we decided to schedule another very well curated episode on achieving last mile automation through AI. I have Vikas Jain, GTM and AI ML lead at UiPath, who will be presenting before you on this interesting topic. Before I hand over to him, two more things from my side. Be curious, ask questions. Vikas will cater to them, most of them during the end of the session. Also, please leave your valuable feedback to help me improve my future sessions. Welcome, Vikas, and over to you.
Thank you, Ankita, and thank you for the quick brief over what we are planning to do here. Uh, Let me just first of all, if you can confirm if you are able to see the screen, everyone. Anyone, if you can respond.
Can anyone, everyone, the screen is, visible? Yeah, it is.
Perfect. So this, I guess it's a series where we thought of creating more awareness to the automation industry, which is currently at boom. So there are multiple vendors in the market. There are multiple technologies which complement automation. So I guess last month we had a session over RPA, which talks about what exactly are the software bots, how can we leverage automation with multiple application systems, etc., etc. Now here today, what I was intended to do is what's the role of artificial intelligence in the automation space, which will help you achieving the end-to-end automation. Because if we pick certain transactions, we want to achieve 100% automation possible. Uh, but before that, let's recap a couple of slides from the previous session, so the people who could not join last gets word last time. Uh, to start with, what exactly is automation? Automation is robotic process automation. It emulates a person activities on the computer screen. So basically, if you are navigating to multiple application, copying some data from Excel file, updating it in SAP systems or Oracle systems, it emulates, it mimics all your actions. If you have certain business rules, you can embed all those business rules in the workflows of automation, and the robots will perform the same set of actions what you have asked them to do. The last one, it can integrate with existing applications. It can it if it's a local host, it can integrate with your desktop application. If it's a website, so it can talk to your web applications. If it's RDP, anything is possible, feasible in the space of automation, whatever is rule based, manual, and whatever is defined or standard approach. Now, as a business user, what is my expectations from the people who are doing development? So, looking at the customer standpoint, they are looking to accelerate benefits of digital transformation. What do you mean by this? So, traditionally, I can just give a simple example of accounts payable, where you usually send a document or an invoice to a company by post. The company will accept it, they will process it manually, they will send a check to the relevant department. Before that, there are multiple validation steps. They will match it with the PO, with the inventory. So the entire process used to take 30 to 60 days. And then there will be a cash credit cycle. Now, if you move towards the digital journey, if an invoice can be sent within few minutes rather than taking 5 days or 3 days, if you send by post, the entire cycle can be fast tracked. So instead of completing a single invoice in 30 days or maybe 20 days or 15 days, now you can do the same invoicing within a day. So when I say within a day, it includes multiple level of approvals, wire transfer systems availability, and also banks availability. It also helps you improve the customer experience. Uh, if you have a process where end customers involved, and they have raised a request, for example, for a loan, sorry, for a loan. And normally, if a loan takes 15 days or 10 days or 7 days, it expedites the entire cycle, which means now instead of 7 or 10 days, you are dispersing the loan within a day or two, which not only adds to the customer experience, but for a company, it's a benefit from day two rather than waiting till day 20 to start the loan. It also reduces compliance cost and risk because as you automate, as you build workflow, the robo will execute the same set of activities. You will have specific logs, audit trails, which will be helping keeping the compliance in place. And at last, it increases employee satisfaction and engagement, which means if I am a person who does this invoice processing, look at the invoice, first index it, and then take the data, push it to SAP, that's not something where I'm putting my brain into. That's not something where my creativity side is being challenged. This I'm just doing the normal data entry work, and if I have been moved away from that sort of work, I can do much more than what I was doing before. I can analyze the data, I can identify what are the gaps, I can make the process much better, I can spend more time on the creative activities. So that's automation in single piece. Now coming to what software robots can do. So here I've listed down some of the tasks where you will see whenever you try to automate a process, be it a claim process, invoice process, accounts payable process, order management process, or any sort of process. These are the activities usually you do. First is log into any sort of application. So if I am a person who is working in a customer service environment, the first thing what I need to do at morning 8 o'clock, log into my applications, log into systems, ensure I'm logged into multiple applications, be Oracle, Excel, etc., etc., so that I'm ready for my day-to-day job. It can also do move files and folders within simple clicks. If you have to move a file across multiple systems like SharePoint or VMs, it can do that. It can read and write to databases directly. Either so traditionally we used to write SQL queries. Now with this, you can directly write all those queries in the respective RPA tool, and it can fetch the data for you. It can write the data for you. It can amend the data for you. From a web perspective, it can scrap the elements from a website. So today, if I want to check what are the books available in the space of automation in Amazon, I can automate that task, scrape the entire content or first 100 books, names with author, with pricing within a matter of 5 to 10 minutes. So that's because we have clearly defined rules that I need to put uh, this into my address bar, put this link into my address bar. I need to navigate to this screen and fetch this set of data. It can also connect to system APIs. So not every time you need to do a UI based automation. You can also do a backend automation. It can also extract contents from documents, digital PDFs, standard emails, and forms. So which
Hi
basically
Vikas, I'm so sorry to bother. Hi Vikas, actually the slides are not changing.
uh, is it at what can software robots do still?
First slide, it's still reflecting the first slide.
Uh,
I mean, maybe it is for
let me
me. Audience, can you please tell me that for you the slides are changing? Are the slides changing, everyone?
should I stop sharing and reshare
Uh,
probably?
yeah, the slides, no, yeah, they are not changing. Slides are not changing. Actually, I thought maybe, yeah, you can reshare it, re-begin.
Okay, just give me a moment, please.
No problem.
Can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Just let me know. I'll just tell you when I'm switching the slides so that at least you're aware that the slides are being changed. And if it's not changed, just let us know or let Ankita know. So last two activities make certain sort of calculations and open any email, download the attachment, save the attachments, read the attachments. So this is what traditionally the software robots were intended to do. Now, as we move ahead in the automation space, and we know we have evolved to a stage where now no more we are doing a simple automation or simple process automation. We are moving towards the more complex use cases, more cases where it requires cognitive intelligence. Uh, a quick evolution cycle, if I have to say, I can say that traditionally we used to do application scripting. In scripting, you write scripts for any particular application, you record it, you run the scripts, and that's it. That script will run for that particular application. Then we move to the macros, which means we can speak to system A, system B. We can collate some data, we can run the data, we run the execute the process. Now, after the macros, it comes the place where we do RDA, which is remote desktop automation, or basically a attended piece, where certain it's kind of an assistant for a user. For if I have to do certain rule-based task or a process, so I can give it to the bot, which will work alongside within the system, which is also called as attended automation, and execute those tasks and send it back to me. Then comes the era of RPA, which is more of a background automation, or as I can say, unattended automation, which is not dependent on any intervention for a agent or a human. It can work 24/7. In ideal case, it we can keep it for a month continuously running. If you have a huge backlog of the process, you can deploy maybe 5, 10 different 15 bots, and then carry on with your activities, and that particular piece will continue running till the time it either completes or it triggers an exception which will be sent back to you. Now that is what we were doing 3 years back or 2 years back. Nowadays, as we are looking at more complex cases, we need RPA plus plus. When I say plus plus, only RPA cannot be the solution for this. You need complementary set of technologies, which is sometimes it's OCR, because if you need to read scan documents, you might have to use OCR techniques. If you have anything with regards to process mining, you can use any of the tools where you can process mine a particular set and see whether automation is feasible on that piece or not. If you have to use analytics over the data set what is already executed, you can use dashboarding tools, you can use Kibana for the matter of fact, or Elasticsearch for data storage, so that you can make meaningful sense out of it. Now we are looking at end-to-end automation, which we also called as last mile automation, and how AI is helping over there. Let's move to the next skill. Nowadays, every RPA vendor, every company who is working towards the automation space, they are adding all these skills to the bots. I'll quickly take you through each of the skills, let you know what exactly are those skills and how can you leverage all those skills. So first comes the visual understanding. So basically, this is the one which act as eye of the robot. If I say rule-based standard, if these are limbs, then this act as a eye for the bots. So the entire AI skill is the brain, and visual understanding you can consider it as an eye, which basically can work cross-platform. So traditionally, if you have a RPA tool for a Mac, it will work only on Mac. If you have a RPA tool which will work on Windows systems, it will work only on Windows application. If it's for a mobile application automation, it will work only on that particular platform. But with the addition of visual understanding, it can work cross-platform. If I have a RDP connection or a Citrix environment or a mobile environment, which I can open through my uh, through my laptop in a Windows environment, so I can still go ahead and automate that piece of work. So now there are no boundaries with regards to the platform. There is no boundary even to the type of applications. It can work on it can work on Flash. It can work on PDFs which are scanned, and also Silverlight, because you are not able to identify objects on these. So you use visual understanding to understand. And as many of you are aware that what object is for Visual Studio, the same things goes for selectors in UiPath. So I can give example of UiPath because I'm working on UiPath, but there are multiple analogies which can be connected to multiple vendors. Now, there's much more beyond an object. You don't need to rely on object on the screen, whether it's actually available or not. With the help of visual understanding, you can see a particular button, look at the shape, size, and then decide whether it's a button, it's a text box, is it a drop down. So you can take care of all the things through this platform. It's just moved beyond uh, the traditional way of doing automation. Uh, I can give a couple of examples. Maybe if you look at the technology perspective, it's computer vision. So you can use computer vision. I guess recently I saw one video where uh, a Google API or is being used to identify a particular number board, identify whether how what is the percentage of the car which is being damaged, and send it to the insurance provider. This not only helps a huge in terms of saving manpower, but also expediting the entire process. You can also take example of Amazon Tesseract, Microsoft Vision APIs, all works on the same technology, which is visual understanding. I'll move to the next one, which is document understanding. Document understanding, if you know, if it's a standard digital format, there's no problem. We can do the normal RP here. But when it comes to receipts, when it comes to invoice, every vendor will have, or every region will have a fixed invoice format. If you have to code rule by rule, uh, even if it takes 3 hours, 5 hours for one piece of code, for 1,000 vendors, you might need 500 days. But when we use document understanding, we have already trained the invoices model in such a way that it can take multiple invoices and give you the required output. Now, all these robo skills, as I told, can be available already by the RP vendor, or you might also find it as open source or with the third party vendors. So this can be leveraged across. It's just not limited to receipts and invoices. You can have your audit reports, a report which maybe a financial report, which goes through 300, 500 pages. So what we as an data scientist can do, we can just read through the entire report, bring out a 3-page summary for a CA or for the investors to go through it and just make meaning sense out of it, and also understand the signatures, stamps, logos, which we can pass it through the document understanding. Uh, I can give as a technology, I can give example of optical character recognition. Now it just not only identify the characters, but it also keeps on improving its vocab in terms of execution. So for example, today out of 10 invoices, it was able to extract only for 5. It was able to extract only for 5. But in future, as and when you get more of these invoice and the data gets updated, the data sets get formed, and the model gets improved, you can achieve 10 out of 10 invoices as well. And also the variation in those 10. So if 10 requires 10 fields, you can cover more than 100 or maybe 110 type of invoices. Uh, Now, few of the vendors which I know are like Hyperscience, you have Omni, you have DocuStar, you have Inford, which are working only specifically to document understanding. Moving to the conversational understanding. So again, this is completely towards NLP and NLG. It basically it translates the free text to a computer understanding language. uh, you have chatbots for it, because if you have if any one of you have logged into AliExpress, there is a small window at the bottom, or maybe for a matter of fact even Swiggy or any of the applications. You will see initially the response what you give, or the interaction what you have with with the app is by a chatbot. After a certain point of time, if a query is not clear, then the bot usually passes to an advisor, a human advisor, who will take over the cases from there. So in similar way, the chatbots are being designed. They are being trained specifically for the business. If there is a customer who is into insurance domain, they will have an insurance domain chatbot. If it's a banking customer, if you go to ICICI Bank, there's a chatbot called Lakshmi. So if you speak to that chatbot, can give you the entire list of banking portfolio, what are the different interest rates, what are the different options available with ICICI Bank. Similarly, you have this for Kotak, you have for all the banks now. But if you ask an insurance question to them, they might not be able to tell you. So all these bots are customized in such a way that they look for their own domain. Voice assistance, it's as simple as your Cortana, or it can be Alexa. The first technology which is being used here is speech to text, and then it gets converted by the natural language processing. So all these type of understanding usually helps in use cases for help desktop, IT help desktop, or for initial L1 help. What we have observed, what I have also observed is many of the companies are now investing more in improving the AI skills, which are just not limited to chatbots, document understanding. They are also investing more in analytics. Analytics in the sense, if I know a trend where what type of clothes apparels will go, I can get that into my inventory before that, or what kind of target audience should I target for. So all these things are improving the day-to-day business for the retail industry, for pharma industry, for anyone. Now we talked about the good things about AI. Now there are multiple pitfalls which ideally we should avoid to ensure AI is reality. So to convert AI into reality, these are the things which can be act as a pitfall, and we can help, or we can ensure that this gets mitigated during the process when we are developing, when we are modeling all our models. So for an executive, a person who actually executes the entire AI and automation strategy, they don't have a playbook as of now. They don't know where to start. They don't know what are the different parameters which are required by AI. One side is complete automation, but the second side is also AI. So you, as a whole, how what will be the total business impact if I include both? Then on one side there's automation COE, which works on all these automation tasks, which automate the simple and the medium or a little complex task. But when it comes to cognitive processes, they might not have specific skill set within their team to create all those models. They might not have access to the models which are already built in the system by within the company. They are not very sure where to deploy all these models, how to manage all these models. So that becomes a little bit tricky for the automation COE. So traditionally, they'll have the RP developers, they'll have C Sharp, Java, full stack developers, they will have pod controllers, they will have business analysts, program managers, but not people specific to AI ML. Now, there's a team which is very particular about AI initiatives, which works only on AI ML models. However, this team is not made aware about how the entire model will work in the business side. How there's no visibility over the model performance real time. You can definitely get through multiple email threads, but it's not real time data what you're getting over the performance of the model. And also not sure what the new model will look like in terms of if I have to improve the data, what are the different data sets what are required, is it right, is it wrong, who needs to verify, etc., etc. So these are the things which actually causes a bit of misunderstanding the role of AI in automation, and somehow it creates some kind of mess. So now to overcome this, this is what we generally do. It's a simple plain strategy what we follow in terms of ensuring that whatever AI models are being formed, they're also being translated to a business impact or a ROI. So I'll just go through step by step guide, which will help you understand the entire flow, and then probably I can tell you what are the different things, use cases what we can look at upon. Um First and the foremost important thing, as we speak about earlier, is to choose a model. Now, as I told, there are specific R&D teams within an organization which works only on data science. They are the ones who will actually build that models. They might have also implemented at certain point of time at some or the other units, but that may not be available by the entire organization. So you can pick the models which are more beneficial to start with a particular business and then expand it to there. Second is out of the box by the provider itself. Uh, out of the box in UiPath, there are certain models which are out of the box, like computer vision. There are certain models with regards to invoice processing, receipt processing, which we can just drag and drop and use. So that becomes something where I don't need to reinvent the wheel again and again. I know this is already available. I can either build on top of it. I can train the customer data sets of my client, of my company, so that the entire model is trained as per our requirement. There are other open source community models which are available. So if you go to Kaggle, if you go to Watson community, or maybe Kaggle noobs, there are multiple people who are working day in day out only on data sets, only on these data models. Now that doesn't mean it'll help. You can directly just plug and play. Again, you need to customize it as per your environment. You need to retrain. You need to ensure the right data set is going into the model so that it does not have any bias, and then use that model for your particular automation piece. At last, there are multiple AI partners. When I say partners, these are the product companies which actually work on creating all those models. Probably I can show you at the last. I have a list of close to 100 plus vendors which are related to conversational understanding, which are related to visual understanding or document understanding, or voice, etc. So there are multiple partners which provide data model as a service. You can consume all those data models and pick the best model what you need in a business process. So I'll quickly pick one example of invoice processing, uh, where I need a model first which can classify whether a particular document is invoice or not, and also extract the elements. So I'll take that as an example, and I'll start from there. So I've chosen a model which first is classifier, and second which also extracts. Now I have this model ready. Now AI Fabric is basically a CI/CD platform. When I say CI/CD, it's continuous improvement and continuous deployment model, mechanism where the entire AI models will be hosted. When I say AI, it can be ML, it can be NLP, NLG, any sort of models. So you can basically deploy your models, you can manage your model, you can keep versioning and maintenance of the model. So this should be the place where all the model related activities should be there. It should act as a connecting tissue between your AI models versus or to the robotic standard workflows. It also gives you an visibility. So basically, if I'm a data scientist, I also need to understand how my model is performing. So this platform should have that capability where I can see how my model is working and what all things are not able to
Vikas,
execute at a last level.
Vikas, are
Yes,
you
Ankita?
changing the slides? Are you changing the slides right now?
No, no,
All
I
right.
haven't changed. I'm on
Okay.
the slide which says accelerate AI and automation strategy.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Now, once we know that we have all the models for our consumption in the hosting platform, now Studio is the place where you design your workflows, where you play with the process, where you design the entire process. Now, if I have to design a process, keeping in mind I'm doing an invoice processing, then first and foremost thing, I need to create a simple workflow which reads an email and pass the attachment to the AI model. That will be my first module. Now the second module, once it gets passed to the AI model, I'll drag the module or the model which is being hosted on the hosting platform to the workflow so that once it takes an input as a file, it should give me output as whether it's an invoice or not. So sometimes you also get POs in the same inbox. Sometimes you may not even get attachments. So that will all get filtered out at the top. You don't need to go through the entire cycle and then figure out, okay, this is not a PO, this is just a plain file, or this is just a signature image which has come as an attachment. So that should get filtered out there. Then once the classifier has given us the output that this is an invoice, I will again write a small module which will call a model which will extract the contents from the invoice and feed it to the respective ERP systems after a certain set of business validations. So basically, I'm calling two different models during the entire workflow. This should be the drag and drop AI studio. This right now it's available in UiPath as well. It will be available with other vendors too, to ensure that the entire studio has capability of drag and drop across multiple models. Now you have chosen a model, you have deployed the model, you have created a workflow which works in tandem with the bots in the model. Now comes the execution part. Now in execution, there can be multiple tracks, depends on whatever you have done. So one example which I gave was invoice processing, but you can also have inventory management execution. You can have customer email classification where certain things can be queries, certain things can be complaints, certain things can be positive feedback, negative feedback. There can be process with regards to bank approvals. It can be a chatbot which analyze the sentiments and pass it to the right team. So there can be multiple execution types. But what is common is not everything will get processed at first go. So once all the execution is done, there will be certain set of exceptions which will fall in the validation queue. Now, this is the place where you actually pick all these exceptions, create data out of it, create data sets, which usually data scientists do, and then retrain your model. Now, what happens is as you have everything real time, and the executions happens within minutes or maybe seconds sometimes, the entire data is available for you real time. So after a regular interval, you can create all these data set, identify the outliers, take out the outliers, and just retrain your model. So you can improve in a much more faster and efficient way rather than just waiting for the data after 6 months or a year. So this way, your entire improvement and deployment cycle will be fast tracked instead of waiting for an implementation for a big set of infrastructure. This can be done in a single hosting platform, and it can also close your feedback loop. So now as a data scientist, I know what kind of data set is required. I will take, definitely I'll take the input from the business users, that is this the right set of data set, and then push it back to my model so that it performs much a better way. Now, this we talk about the problems when it comes to AI strategy. Now, let's go a little bit in detail. Uh, it's about identifying use cases. So, identifying use cases is just not a problem for automation, but also for AI. So, we just need to ensure that we select the right use cases for AI. So I'll just quickly tell you one of the book I've heard from HBR. It's called On AI Analytics and the New Machine Age. On the first page itself, they have given a very practical story where in 2013 the MD Enderso Cancer Center, they launched a project which is called Moonshot. So the idea of Moonshot was that it'll help in running a diagnose and recommending certain treatment plans for a certain form of cancer. So that was a brilliant idea which they were trying to execute, and they were using IBM Watson for it. However, in 2017, the entire idea was put on hold, and the reason was they had already burnt out $62 million on this project, and they are they are yet to place the systems for the patient to actually use it. So that was after 4.5 years. They were still not able to get the right results, but I guess after a certain period of time, after a couple of years, they've started slow. But on the parallel, the cancer centers IT team, they actually started very small. So they identified 3 to 4 use cases. They were certainly around whether so particular set of patients or identifying patients which might have difficulties in paying the bills. They were trying to build workflows or models which can identify staff problems. They are also helping the patient's family in recommending hotel and restaurants by certain data. So the patient's family will fill certain data, and on the basis of that, they will give certain output for the patient's family. Now, this project was less ambitious, but it was very promising. It actually yielded some benefit, and after a year and a half, they have seen a great improvement in financial performance. They have also seen great improvement in patient satisfaction and also employee satisfaction because they were not doing any data entry work going further. So, keeping in mind the same set, identifying a use case is very, very important. And especially when it relates to AI, because it can be, you can pick any of the use cases, but you need to ensure it's a low hanging fruit. So I've just kept 3 different variations. Probably you can have more, but this is at a broader umbrella. I can see there are 3 different types. One is the problems which are probabilistic in nature, which means you do not have any certainty that the outcome will happen in a particular way, or it won't. But there is an estimation where you can pass out where this is the probability that this thing can occur. It can be on the right hand side. I've just given a quick example of assessing a value of a property, predicting a customer whether he'll default a loan or not. It can be also predicting timelines for a project, how much time, what are the multiple factors, which, so all these things can act as an input, but it can give a probability of its occurrence, that how much timeline a particular project can take. So these are the type of use cases you can pick to start with in your AI journey, which are more, which have more of business impact and which can give quick results. Second is which has high variability. Now, when I say high variability, it's basically a range. It's and you cannot code in either if then or even in switches. So when we write Visual Studio codes or C sharp code, we can either put if and else, or we can use switch or any of the do while. But these are the processes or the cases where there's a huge variability in the process. A simple example is resume filtering. There are tons and tons of formats which are available online, and there are multiple rules aligned to it. So you can definitely filter out, okay, you need 2 years of experience, developer, you need this set of education. But however, you cannot identify uh, a complete resume format, all the resume formats which are available. So you can look at the scenarios where it's more of filtering mechanism, where it's more of narrowing down to a situation but not concluding. And at last, the third one is the unstructured data, which is the most common one. And if you can relate it to the robo skills, what we talk about, it's document understanding. So here you cannot identify a particular standard or a particular format for image or even for a video, that this should be the sequence of pictures you will get, or a particular invoice for a matter of fact. So you need to identify all those things and create use case accordingly. So these are the places where the AI use cases will be much more relevant, rather than as I told, aiming for a moonshot. So you can maybe last one, I can also think of a customer feedback mechanism where customer has sent a feedback. However, there's no one to read the entire feedback. So you can pass the entire uh, text into a model which will give you either positive or a negative sentiment, which gets added to employee's performance. So in that way, you are actually completing the whole cycle. So rather than someone manually telling, I've received 10 different feedbacks, 5 positive, maybe 5 negative, you are actually closing the entire loop without any manual intervention, but keeping some sort of buffer for manual input. So with that, I'll move to last two use cases, which I have implemented, and it really worked. It was working in tandem with robotics. So this is for an Australian bank, where they actually improve the accuracy of expense assessment classification with a machine learning model. So that this was the model we built custom as per their requirement. Uh, so first, I'll go with the challenge. The challenge was the company faces increased pressure from regulators to do a better job of investigating real living expenses. So sometimes it gets very tough to identify what sort of expenses should be billable, what should not be. Now, second one, the old way involved pulling data manually, and the process were very time consuming. So if you have 1,000 employees and everyone is raising at least uh, maybe 5 different expenses for a month, for a person to manually sit, verify all the details, it will be very tedious, boring. So that was the idea or the challenge what they had. And the current solution can only pick 40 to 50% of the transaction. And that's what it was. As it's time consuming, you might need more manpower or you might need more time, which for Australia, it was a little on a tougher side because they're a little short on manpower. Now, the solution, what we did is we obviously redesigned their entire process because we need to ensure it's more of automation ready. We need to ensure that it can handle more values transactions. we might have to change certain processing mechanism. So we redesigned it, and the redesign was done in such a way that as soon as the transaction data comes, it moves to the AI Fabric models, which were hosted on the hosting platform. That will first categorize what sort of expenses are those. So if a company has if I have to book a hotel and I have a capping of $150, if I have to spend on meals, I can spend $50 a day. If I have a flight, I cannot take business class. I can take only economy class to a extent of $1,000. So I know all these cappings are there in my Excel file, but now as a manual person, I need to categorize everything and see whether it's possible or not. Now with this model, it automatically gives which category it likes. It automatically gives what should be the ideal capping, and then passes the solution or the results back to the RPA, the robotic solution. Now these solutions will check. So there are two inputs now. One input is of categorization, second input is of extraction. So I have input whether it's a food bill, whether it's a hotel bill, and I know this is the capping, this is the extract, that this is the amount. Now, using these, the RP solution will first validate against the current policy. If there is any deviation, it will send back to the customer, or it will send back to the user that there's some problem with this, and this does not adhere to your policy. But if everything is okay, just pass it to the payment team to initiate the wire transfer. So that this actually removed the time consuming part, but it gave more insights to them. So category, just by category, I cannot say it gave more insights, but it gives insights where the team are spending, on which they are spending, where they are spending more, so that they might have to relook at the policy, make it more employee friendly, where they are capping which are way beyond and which are not being crossed, so they didn't reduce this. So all these things actually gets added to the employee satisfaction or customer satisfaction. I have another use case. I guess I have. Uh, so I'll just quickly explain for a minute or two, and then probably start with the questions. Um, Now, this is one of my favorite machine learning models. What we did. So, in a nutshell, the problem was there was a online business systems which selects the bidding opportunities, and they have some criteria, but which is very fuzzy logic. It's very loosely connected. You cannot say if I have to bid if that particular item is less than that or greater than that. There are multiple factors, so the rules were not clearly defined, so we had some kind of fuzzy logic around it. This particular piece was for sales and marketing team to identify these bids and go to 25 different websites to identify all these opportunities. The last piece was the criteria change over time to time, because as and when we progress, after 3 months there are policy changes, after 3 months there are market changes, there are research reports. So the dynamics changes very fast for any of the organizations. So your bidding process cannot uh, be the same if you've done a month back or 2 months back. So it's very fast, frequent. So this was the case where it was told that this might not be a good fit for automation because it's not standard. Now, as a solution, what we presented is we first built small bots or modules for these 25 websites. However, the entire bidding criteria we made it very configurable using models. So basically, first the bot reviews all the bidding opportunities. Now it narrow returned opportunities means it filter out all the opportunities out of 100, maybe the top 25 one, which or top 31. It first then it gets evaluated by the machine learning models and identify all those opportunities which actually requires your intervention. So now if I used to bid 100 opportunities on 100 opportunities before and winning only 5. Now also I may win only 5, but now I know I don't need to put more effort on 100. I just need to focus on top 10, maybe top 20, so that I can win and close all these 20 opportunities. And then at last, as there were different leads for all these opportunities, all these leads are being given certain set of opportunities so that they can work upon. Now this actually help them reduce the low quality bid, because we have given them a narrowed down approach. It reduces the time and effort of a sales marketing piece. That doesn't mean we have automated it and they have saved it. But what does it mean is, rather than focusing on low ones, they focused more on high ones. So they were able to close more than more 20 to 30% of the bids, rather than just 50% or 5 bids at the time. And at last, it really helped in their bidding win percentage and also in the revenue cycle. So this was the recent one which the team did, and it was very well received. And this was one of the most challenging one what I've seen. So with that, I'm open for questions. So please type in your questions in the window, and I'll pick all the questions one by one.
Vikas, I'm giving you the right so that you can have a look at the questions as well.
Sure.
Yeah, so there'll be a question panel now. You can see. Can you see a question icon over there?
Yes, questions I can see.
Yeah, so I mean, if you want, you can just start from the beginning and just scroll it down, because the questions and all the other questions are coming in between.
Yeah. So yes, just 1 second. I guess there are too many yes in at the top. Not audible. Slides are not moving. Slides. And I'm really sorry. I guess initially the slides were not changing, and I can see a lot of questions with regards to the slide.
No problem.
So I'm just moving to the last one because still it's no slides. Uh, Now, I guess the first question is by Bhaskar Chaudhary, which I picked. And the question is it possible to analyze bell curve data or bottom quartile management data with the help of this tool? So, so Bhaskar, in terms of tool does not help in creating these set of or this understanding. However, the technology what we spoke about is more of a CI/CD platform for all these models. So you might still have to invest time in building all those models. And once you have specific data sets available as per your environment, you can get all these data. So I've seen a couple of models which identifies or which analyze the bell curve data as an open source in Kaggle. So you might you might have want to look at it, but that will still help, and then you need to modify as per your requirement. I guess there's a question from Grija. Will we have access to the recordings of this session? Ankita, probably.
Vikas, what were you saying? Did I miss something?
The question was, will we have access to the recordings of these sessions?
Yeah, perfectly. Just after the session, by tomorrow, there'll be an automated email with the recording link.
Okay. So next question is from Robin Anthony. It says we have a model where we have to do the identifying. Okay, I guess. So we have a model where we have to identify what is that image, whether it's a cat or a dog. But sometimes wrong prediction is done. Can you tell us the solution for detecting wrong predictions? As I told, so initially, once you build the model, it might not give you 95% or 100% accuracy. You need to pick out the cases where it's not right, collate it, and analyze why it's going wrong, and then pass it as a data set after identifying back to the model. So in that case, if you don't give the feedback to the model again, it will again identify the respective image, maybe cat as a dog or a dog as a cat. So you need to analyze what are the factors which are causing this problem. Maybe you might have to add more variations, uh, the dissimilarities between the two. So if you have added similarities, you might have to pull in more dissimilarities so that it can bifurcate the images between a cat and a dog. Uh, Next question is from Archana Pawar. The question is, what platform will support all these processes? Uh, so if you are working with any RPA technology, it should work. The one which I've showcased right now is UiPath, because I'm from UiPath and I have a little bit of knowledge about UiPath. But if you go to any other RPA vendor, you might be able to see similar set of activities and processes along. In the case study that you shared at last slide, when you say bot reviews all bid opportunities, how does it do that? Is it crawling that works or something else? So bot reviewing all the opportunities. So crawling, it's not exactly crawling. So first is the web scraping. So first set is a simple automated web scraping from multiple files. Now we have built all those logic while it reviews it. So when we say bot reviews it, we have used the range model over there. If you remember, we have spoken about most variable cases. At that point of time, I've given example of resume filtering. Similarly, we have used the variation model where anything falls under a certain variation plus other factors or plus other variation should have a extra weightage rather than the bits which have a lower probability. So all these logics, or I should say the fuzzy logic, were given by the process owners. However, what we also did is we took last 6 months of data. We checked all the winning bits, what are the different parameters on which they were being won, and on those parameters we have built the model in such a way that if you identify these set of parameters with certain industry, this is the places your priority goes up, and on the places where we have lost it, that should be the places where maybe we need to change our strategy or do something about it. So that was a output given to the business user. Next question is from SRG. It says, any case studies in GIS? Uh, Not something I'm aware of, but probably I can search and you can just put it on forum. There's a forum called forum.uipath.com, and you can just put this question here. I'll also check, and if anything comes up there, I can post in that forum. Next is from Anand Mandala. Next question. I understand that there is a community edition of UiPath. Can you please help us understand the difference between your commercial and community edition with respect to AI implementation capability? Uh, you're absolutely right. There is a community version of UiPath. If I have to compare community versus the commercial, there are zero differences in terms of functionalities. There are limits in terms of usage. You will not be able to use the community edition for commercial purpose. So if you are an organization or a unit which is not under small scale industry, or which are into profit making, so it's not NGO but it's a profit making organization, that legally you should use commercial model. Now with respect to AI implementation capability, now this piece which is called AI Fabric. It was available for the community till now. It was accessible. Everyone can try. Everyone can host their solution in the orchestrator and see how does it work. But as it's defined for a learning purpose, and it's not for commercial purpose, you at any given point of time you can connect two bots with the orchestrator and not more. So again, not in terms of capability or functionality, but more in terms of execution. Um, Next is from Salman Sultan. Which AI fabric would you suggest to start with? AI Fabric itself, uh, it's available with UiPath. I guess there are other vendors which will have a different name, because I'm very familiar with AI Fabric name. So AI Fabric is nothing but a hosting platform. So you can start with AI Fabric itself with UiPath, or whatever your tool of choice in RPA. But before that, ensure you have certain models what you have built, or you can use the existing models which are available in UiPath AI Fabric. Uh, do you have, so next question is from Jaideep Pathare. Do you have case studies related to Vision AI? If you just type Google Vision or Microsoft Vision or Computer Vision case studies, you will get tons and tons of material. There are multiple links on UiPath itself for this case study. There are links with regards to number plate detection. There are links for damage detection. There are links for even identifying a particular image. So the recent one, probably you must have seen on LinkedIn or Facebook, that if you draw something on paper, it can basically translate into a web page, a UI design. So that was nothing but a vision approach where the entire document is being scanned, break being it gets break into multiple pieces of text box, buttons, radio boxes, and then you can see a visual layer on it. So if you just Google, you will get all these case studies.
Vikas, can we have
Uh,
like three more questions, like two more questions, maybe,
yes,
because let's wind up in next
last two.
3 4 minutes.
Yes, I'll take just two questions.
All right.
Uh, uh, you mentioned 100 odd RPA vendors. Any recommendation for a startup who may not be able to afford UiPath cost? So, if you're just a startup for learning purpose, you can use the community one, which comes at a zero cost, and you can renew it every year. But if you're looking for a full-fledged one for at scale, then you might have to invest some amount over there. Okay, probably second last question from Rohit Nagpal. I understand that to build AI models, you require a lot of data. That's right. However, I'm building a new product and don't have data. How much data do you require before you start with computer vision and conversational AI? Any shortcuts that I may use? So, so there are no shortcuts in terms of data, because definitely we need data. But the only thing what can help is, so before I start with any of the project, I go to Kaggle, I go to Kaggle Noob, uh, and Google has recently given lots of data sets uh, for the open source community. So you can get access to tons and tons of data sets. Now, these data sets may be interpreted in a different manner. For example, there are tons and tons data sets for X-rays. Now you can use those data sets to identify the sort of diseases, maybe the cures, maybe a different age group where it's dedicated to a particular disease. But there's no shortcut for data. Last question: difference between RPA and AI. A quick one: RPA is more of rule based. AI is not rule based. AI is more of fuzzy logic. So if you have clear rules defined, which you can put it as if and else, that's RPA. If you have rules which cannot be written in a workflow, that means it's AI. It's a fuzzy logic which requires, it doesn't have a structure. that falls into a AI category. So with that, I'll close. Thank you, and over to you, Ankita.
Thank you, Vikas, for this session, for your time and efforts. Thank you so much. And I'm sure each and everyone would have learned something new from this great webinar. And for everyone else, I will see you on 25th of Feb with a session from Product Management Series, which the topic will be Whole Product by Divya Jain, Product Manager in VMware. Thanks, everyone, and thank you, Vikas in particular. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ankita.